Hello.
It's great being here. Ladies and gentlemen, ambassador, colleagues, dear friends, it's really nice to be here to celebrate Anders' birthday. And this is the first seminar session of today. So now we've heard a bit of music, and now it's time for some talk. And my name is Fredrik Moberg, and I work with an organization called Albaeco, and we work with science communication. And we try to communicate science in new ways to get the message across. And the kind of science we work with is environmental science. And coral reefs are, of course, one of the ecosystems that we try to communicate their value and the status of the coral reefs. And for me personally, it's extremely fun to work with coral reefs, because I used to be a coral reef scientist myself. And 10 years ago, I wrote a doctoral thesis about coral reefs.
Yeah, and I'm Per Olsson. I'm a researcher on, among other things, coral reefs. And I'm at the Stockholm Resilience Centre. And I'm also very happy to be here. And it's going to be a great night. But I want to ask you something first about the title of this session is called From Polyps to People. And I think a lot of people out there think of polyps as an abnormal growth of tissue, maybe projecting from a mucous membrane. And you might want to do some surgery on that. But so, what were you thinking?
I was thinking about not the medical disease, but the polyp, the coral polyp. The coral polyp is the individual coral organism that together form the colonies that we call corals. And these corals, in their turn, form the whole coral reef. And me, as a researcher, when doing my doctoral thesis, I started out studying the physiology of the individual coral colonies and trying to understand how they react when they are faced with environmental stress and changes in their environment. But then, during my doctoral studies, I realized that you have to be both on that scale and on a quite different scale, working with the coral reefs and their interaction with people, if you want to solve the problems that coral reefs face. So, and also look at the coral reef as part of a larger coastal seascape. That was where I ended my thesis. So, I really hope that this seminar session of this gala evening will deal with all these scales. And it's important both to understand the ecology, the physiology of the organisms that live on the reefs, but it's really important to understand people and the importance of coral reefs for people and how people interact with them. That's why. But you, Per, you started out in the other end of the spectrum. You started by studying people, and then you ended up studying polyps. Tell me.
Not really, but I did start with people. And for me, I started out studying shifts in society and how we can change our pathway from unsustainable pathways to sustainable pathways. And I studied how under which conditions these shifts are possible. And and when I talk about sustainable pathways, I mean shifts that where we go to some stewardship maybe, or where we reconnect to the biosphere better in a different way. Because the way we're organized in society today, with very sectorized, very fragmented, all over the world we're organized like that for managing our planet. So the people working on water are sitting over there, the forest people, the biodiversity people. That's not how nature works. Nature is connected and we need to be tuned into that. So what I have more specifically studied is how individuals and small networks or individual and small networks with new ideas, how they make a large impact on society. And so, if I show you, if you can move a little bit. I was going to say something. So if I stand here, and this is where society is, and this is where we do things in a certain way and we're on a certain path. I study how these individuals and small networks manage to step out of that and go over here and stand here and develop ideas, new ideas, and then in the end get the whole societies to shift and start to revolve around where they are. So we study how they manage to break up existing patterns, how they develop, what kind of ideas do they develop, and what kind of impact does that have. We also look at if this shift includes some tipping points maybe, where it's very difficult in the beginning, it's very hard to get people to move over there, or society to move over there. So we look at if there's a tipping point, if there's a build-up and nothing happens, and suddenly there's a golden moment, a window of opportunity when things shift very fast. So these are the processes that I study, and we have some people that's going to talk about these things today. When we first talked, and you came with this idea and wanted help with this, we immediately agreed on that we should talk about solutions, because the problem today, as I see it, is that as also was said in the movie before, was that science and also media is very good at telling us how bad things are. And there's a lot of research on that, how bad things are, and to show that. And then there is also some research on success cases. And this is sort of how it could be, and this is how these success cases work. But there's very little research on how to go from that bad state to that better state. So that's what I'm doing, looking at the how of these transformations. So, I'm not going to talk much more than
now
that.
you've been talking for too long. We need to watch a movie.
Yes, let's watch a movie. Let's get into the mood.
Next thing here on the program is actually a movie from the famous National Geographic photographer Matthias Klug. And we've also seen his lovely pictures here in the back. So this is a short movie clip from his movie called Coral Eden, and it shows you what kind of ecosystems we're talking about and how a pristine coral reef could look like. So, and Matthias wanted to be here today, but unfortunately he couldn't be here. He says hello and congrats to Anders. Let's watch Matthias' movie clip. Thank you.
One world, one family, and one boy. For thousands of years, people have depended on the oceans here in Raja Ampat, in Indonesia's province of West Papua. Located in the Coral Triangle, Raja Ampat is the heart of the world's coral reef biodiversity. The seas here are possibly the richest in the world. Our world used to be full of places like this. Not exactly like this, but diverse, rich, and untouched. Well, everything is bound to change. After all, we are civilized now. Many of us have cars. We fly. We own boats. You and I eat well. We lead good lives. So why would we need places like these? Why on earth? The film, The Coral Eden, will show you why. One world, one boy, but two choices. The choice to destroy or to use our oceans sustainably. To save this true last place on Earth for generations to come.